Hello, this is Rick Gomes, LFT with Stoners Counseling Services. Again, following up with another video. Steps towards therapy. This is after discovery, and what can you do, and how can some of that process work? All right, so clearly, I'm sure most people think, "Oh my gosh, found something out." Probably most people are going to more so turn towards technology first than to people they know, and asking, do they know somebody? Who do you know? Unless you happen to have been already working with somebody around some other issues, and then of course referrals ought to be able to come from that person to provide for you. But on the technological side, we have all the browsers, and you can go on search and go, here's what's happened, affair recovery, cheating spouse, whatever it is you type in, and you're going to get a lot of different information that pops up from different people. Here's where I want to say, just because it can be such an emotionally charged and difficult piece, and sometimes there can be an urgency, certainly it feels like it, around this, to just sit there and say, oh, here's the first people I see, and here's the first people I'm just going to reach out to, and I'm going to call them, and I'm going to call them, and if they don't answer the phone, then I'm calling another person and another person, and pretty soon, if you do that, maybe you get lucky and you run across somebody who answers the phone. And certainly if you leave a lot of voicemails, then perhaps you're going to at some point get a lot of people calling you back. Most therapists are not operating in a fashion that's such as a crisis center, and availability just to randomly call one and be able to talk to them is really just, happenstance. So, give it a little bit of moment there, right? Like I think most will typically respond within 24, 48. I know that's a policy we try to do unless it's a weekend. We try to get back as soon as we can with people when they've left messages. Emails do tend to function better, and that may be another option too. All right, so now you've gone through this, you see these people, you see these different therapists. Go on there and look, do they have specific experience with what you're trying to work on when it comes to affair recovery, cheating, stuff like a lot of therapists will certainly have couples counseling, communication, reconnection, all these different pieces versus just maybe specifically affair, although some will, and then cheating. And then you want to see maybe what information do they have on their website about what that process is, right? So you can know that. There are certain, at least some people who may be more so focus in different areas than others, and some who will sit there and say, well, I can do all these different approaches and work in all these different sort of areas, but you're in a space here where you're really trying to sort that out. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean just because somebody doesn't have anything specific on there, and even if they say they don't even list anything about couples, but there's something about that person that you think is interesting, that you like, then you still give it a try anyways, okay? You still sit there and say, hey, make the phone call, leave a message, send them an email, or whatever other avenue they're utilizing as therapists. And you can ask that question. Here's my issue. Do you think you can help me with that, right? And give them an opportunity to decide whether or not, it feels like that's something they want to try to take on, or if it's in their wheelhouse, and at least then maybe you can have a conversation. We have a thing where we do a 15-minute free phone consult, and when it comes to couples, I always do it where I do each individually separated, so I can speak with one for 15 minutes and kind of gather that information, and then the other person, and see what other aspects are going on there, and that's all free in that. There's no obligation to it. It's just to get an understanding, to see if, like, okay, is this a couple I can work with, that I think we have things where are there other issues we need to address first, et cetera, et cetera. But I think most therapists, irregardless of whether or not they have that listed on a site or they advertise it, can probably offer that to get a feel for things, right? You want to get a feel. You want to talk to them and sit there and say, do I feel comfortable? But not just that, it's the partner too, okay? And that's one of the biggest challenges in that. I can have a couple, one person talks to me, oh, they feel great, they like it, and the other person talks to me, maybe they don't really like me. Whatever reason that can be, there's lots of reasons. It's okay. It's not going to be taken personal. If it doesn't fit for you, whatever it was, it could be something as simple as like gender. It could be anything, I feel more comfortable talking to a female. That's just what works for me. So if that's the case, that's okay. So you want to take your time, try to figure out, okay, let me put a few parts out here and sit on them and wait. right? You want a few options. As a therapist, if you were to say, hey, could you refer me a number of people? I'm going to give you three. And that's a good start point. And then try to get in touch with those other people. And clearly, right, if they don't get back to you within, a day or two, then it's probably okay. Maybe it is time to move on to something else and whatnot. And also that, like, when you have that person, you meet somebody and you start to see somebody, don't be shy to tell the therapist that, like, gosh, this doesn't feel good. Well, I'm not enjoying this, or this isn't working for me, because sometimes it doesn't, and you have to find somebody else as well. Okay, so that's really your starting point. Your starting point is going through that process of trying to figure out, what do I see out there? Who do I see that I think looks like somebody I would want to work with on this? What experience do they have? Availability and all those other aspects, that's another part of the puzzle that certainly gets involved here. You find somebody great and they have no availability, or you find somebody great and they're only fee-based and it's too expensive. There's all those other variables, and that's why you want to have a few different people that you work from, and then sit there and go, okay, well, this number one I doesn't work out for me, but this number two, maybe that's going to work out, and go from there. So that's probably your first starting point when you've done that. But that is just specifically to the couples process when you're trying to get in as a couple. Okay, so hopefully that's a helpful tip for you, and come back and visit us again. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.